The Pirates sit just 2 games back in the National League wildcard race. They're 5.5 games back in the division race right now. They just proved the last 10 games they can absolutely hang with Milwaukee. They can absolutely hang with the Chicago Cubs. They are even in the season series, I believe, with the Brewers, or 1 game under. They are 1 game up on the Cubs, 4 wins, 3 losses in that season series. They should be able to stay in this thing with their starting pitching over the course of the summer. Their rotation is the envy, I would think, of everyone in Major League Baseball. To have 2 young, cost-control pitchers that are this good, who wouldn't want that? But we talked about it yesterday. You need to, if you're Ben Cherington, you're this organization, make good on the start of this window, and the start of this window is right now. So the question to you, Dorin, to you, Callis, and to all of our wonderful and loyal listeners out there at 412-928-9370 on the text line, brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates, a personal injury law firm where they always say there's never a fee unless we get money for you. Just how far are you willing to go to improve this year's club? Are you willing to trade top prospects to add a significant bat at some point this summer?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
I mean, you've been saying it, and I think everybody is very aware of the situation at hand, and especially within the team. We know that the starting pitching is pretty damn good. You're waiting for the bats to come along. But what the situation is at hand right now and why that you would all stops and go for this thing is because of the division. Like, you have to take advantage of the division being bad. You don't know if are the Cardinals going to be bad again next year?
Doubtful.
We said that about them last year, heading into this year. It's like, oh, what are the odds of the Cardinals being bad again? Well, they're showing us that they're not as great as they once were, but I don't expect an organization like that to really be in the dumps too long. So you have to take advantage now of not just what you have inside of your clubhouse, inside of your team, inside of your ballpark, but you have to take advantage of how mediocre this division is.
I heard Starkey talk about adding to this roster yesterday. I saw a graphic put together by Donnie Football of Mulsey saying, you got to take advantage of right now. And I didn't listen to their show yesterday. I just wasn't able to. Doctor, exterminator, back injuries, all that fun stuff. Yeah, car getting run into. It was a day. Yesterday was a long week for the Crowley household. I didn't hear what Mulsey had to say, but I did not hear Starkey bring up, or Zeiss, or Pomp, what you just brought up. It's not only the Pirates need to take advantage of this 3-headed monster at the front of their rotation. This division is absolutely winnable. Mm-hmm. I watched Milwaukee a lot. So have you guys. We watched how they compare with the Pirates. They ain't all that in a bag of chips. We just saw the Cubs this weekend, and while their rotation is good, I don't look at them and go, oh, they're going to run away and hide. And your Cardinals point is a great one. And a quick Google search tells you, okay, last year they're 20 games under 500. This year they're not good. But here's what they did in all the years leading up to the last 2. 93 wins, 90, skip COVID, 91, 88, 83, 86, 100, 90, 97, 88, 90, 86, 91, 86. You got to go back to 2007 before last year, the last time they had a losing season. They're not going to be down. They fill the ballpark, they spend money, they always draft and develop well. So, yeah, you need to take advantage of the here and the now, and we'll get into some of the non-sexy moves that the Pirates could make coming up in the next segment, but there are some intriguing names available. Before we get to that, Callis, you had something to add.
Yeah, something about winning the division doesn't feel as special, especially since the NL Central's undoubtedly the weakest of the National League divisions.
It doesn't feel special?
What?
Just hear me out.
I don't know that I want to, but go ahead.
If they're going to be the weakest division in the National League anyway, they're still going to play a wild card series. The whole allure of winning the division before was to guarantee yourself a 5-game series.
Yeah, who cares, man? You make the playoffs. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, well, we're talking about logistics, though. They could get a wild card spot.
So either way.
When's the last time the Pirates won the division?
That's been a while.
Yes.
Which will be exciting.
Yes. It's
Okay, so then the question-
it legitimizes it.
They're 5.5 games out in the division, and the Cubs and the Brewers aren't that good, is the crux of this thing.
Right.
The wild card race is also totally up for grabs. Last year, if the Pirates had won 84 games, they'd have made the playoffs.
But the conversation that you're trying to have is how many assets would you give up
to
in exchange?
make the playoffs.
Right. Well, we're talking about winning the division, too, which is what you said. How many assets would you give up to win the division, which I think is an interesting point, considering how the playoffs are formatted now.
All right. So
it's hand in hand, right?
It's about taking advantage of the opportunity that you have right now. And the NL is weak. You're going to see one of the potential wild card teams the next few days in the San Francisco Giants. And you have an opportunity here. If you find a way to win like 86 games, you're almost assured to make the playoffs. So what are you willing to give up? And who are you looking for to try to augment this thing and push you over the edge? That's the crux of the conversation. 412-928-9370. Like, for example, Pirates' number one prospect, Paul Skeens. Number two prospect, although he's evolving out of prospect status, is Jared Jones. The number three guy, he's having a tremendously awful year, Tamar Johnson. Would you part with 19-year-old Tamar Johnson if it would get you a bona fide cleanup hitter?
What position does he play?
Tamar Johnson?
Yeah.
It's too far out even to care about that.
Second base.
Yeah,
He's a
okay,
middle
exactly.
infielder.
Yeah, he's an infielder. I have enough of those. Yes, I would part ways.
Yeah.
I have Nick Gonzalez.
Would you part with Nick Gonzalez?
No.
See, I
drafted him.
I would part with him too, if necessary.
Well, Tamar Johnson was a first-round pick, too.
Yep. Bubba Chandler, Anthony Solometo, any of those guys to me are available right now. And in particular, it's the starters. Like, they do not have, you're right about they've got some infield depth here. They don't have enough hitters in their system, though. And I would even part with a starting pitcher prospect like a Solometo, like a Bubba Chandler, to add a prospect that hits that is close to the majors.
Yes.
That's what they need right now.
They don't need pitching.
No, and I'm not worried about filling out the back end of the rotation. Like, we've criticized Ben Cherington, and he's been dragged through the mud, and I think fairly so, for this being year 5, and your best hitter right now is Connor Joe. Like, that's not good enough. But what he has done is he's been able to add starters that have shown value. Like, you don't need to worry about your 1. That's Paul Skeens. You don't need to worry about your 2. That's Jared Jones. You don't need to worry about your 3. You've paid him $77 million. That's Mitch Keller. You can part ways with the Bubba Chandlers and Anthony Solometos of the world. Would it be nice to have 3 number 1s if those guys turn into it? You're damn right. Would it be nice to have a guy that's a 3 that you don't have to pay a lot for in Bubba Chandler or Anthony Solometo? Yeah, no doubt about that. But if you were to part with 1 or both of these prospects to add a legitimate hitter, the Rich Hills of the world have worked out for the Pirates.
Yeah, right.
Right? The Vince Velasquez's have worked out. Martin Perez has been fine for the Pirates this year. Before him, Marco Gonzalez has been good. They've got a 4A guy basically right now in Quinn Priester, who, if you need him to make spot starts, I think you feel okay with it. Domingo Germán is going to be a factor in this at some point. I mean, you can criticize Ben Cherington for a lot, but adding legitimate depth starters that profile as 4 or 5s and have actually looked pretty good for you, he's done a nice job with. You know, Johan Oviedo, I thought was going to be a really big piece of this team this year. Obviously, he misses the season with the arm injury, but he went out, he found him with the St. Louis Cardinals. He has had no problems rounding out a rotation. You don't need to go out there and pay for 1, 2, or 3. You got that figured out. Finding a 4 or 5 for Ben Cherington has actually been pretty easy for him. So if you have to part with starting pitching depth, I got 0 problems with that.
0.
Now, who would you be looking for? Here's the pie in the sky trade target for me, man. And I think it's going to open a lot of eyes because I do think this is within the realm of possibility if they wanted to do it. Vlad Guerrero Jr. Like, you think about that division, the AL East, and you got the Yankees and you got the Orioles, and we'll see where Toronto winds up. But they had to pay him $19.9 million in arbitration. He is under team control the rest of this year and next year. I would 100% give up a package of prospects, including a Bubba Chandler or an Anthony Solomedo, to get a year in change of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? You're going to have to pay him maybe $20 million next year in arbitration, and then whatever's left this year, do it. He's a first baseman. He has hit near 50 homers in the majors before. He hit 26 homers last year. He actually hits for high average. Like, this is a guy that I would absolutely go after if I'm them.
Yeah.
Because he changes everything for you.
He does, and it's a glaring position of need.
Yes.
Glaring.
And we could talk about the Jake Lambs of the world, or you could play Connor Joe more often, but
Connor Joe, like he's been fantastic, and he's been a bright spot. But is he an everyday guy?
right. At
No.
some point, is he going to just turn back into Connor Joe?
Right.
And that's not to say he's not a good, useful player, jack of all trades, who's going to hit you, 250 and 15 home runs. Okay, or 10, 15 home runs. That's nice. But if you really want to contend, you want to really grab this thing by the throat, you go out there and you get a big dude and you stick him right in the middle of the lineup, and he's going to rake for you.
Mm-hmm.
Other options, Pete Alonso of the Mets. They've been rumored to be sellers this year. He's hit 10 homers. He's got an OPS of 762. He hit 46 homers last year, 40 the year before, 37 before that, 53. He fits the bill. He's a free agent at the end of this year. JD Martinez from the Mets hit 33 home runs last year. Has not been great this year because he hasn't played a lot. He's been banged up. He hit 312, but he hasn't played a lot. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He costs $4.5 million. I'm just throwing names against the wall, but guys of that ilk, if it's a rental, it's going to cost less. If it's a guy like Vlad Guerrero Jr., it's going to cost more. Either way, the window is now is the point.
Yeah.
Not just next year, not just the next 4 years. The window is now. Who cares about prospects? And Tamar Johnson, when he really is a factor, what are we talking about? 2-3 years down the road? Who cares? Who cares? Go get it done now.